Man, I can't wait till Arkham Trilogy comes out. When is the release date again? Oh, shit. I have an idea. Well, best I can do for now. How's it going, everyone? And welcome back. So I know what you're thinking. We're reviewing DLC now? What's going on? Well, here's the thing. When I was writing the script for Spider-Man, it was becoming more apparent that I wanted to say more about the DLC, so it seemed appropriate to just make a dedicated video focusing on it. Also, I felt it was best that we get this out of the way now, since there's no real reason to push this way later than it needs to. Seems weird to do this, I know, but let's get into some backstory. So as far as I remember, this was announced when Game Informer was doing their coverage, with a trailer for the first pack coming out days before the game was released. Not sure why they couldn't have waited until after it launched, but I still ended up playing each of them as they came out. My initial impressions were relatively positive, but the more times I played them, they just didn't click with me. I am really curious how this is going to go down, especially since the last time I played through all these was for the Let's Play back in 2020. So how this is going to work is that I'm going to focus on each of them one at a time, so think of this as 3 micro-reviews crammed together. Also, I won't be going over gameplay since there's nothing added to justify a section talking about it. If you want to know my thoughts on it, I recommend you check out my review of the main game just as a refresher. Last thing I wanted to mention is that I'm using the original version of the game to play these, and while I thought about using the remaster, it seemed more appropriate to play these as originally intended and to have it closer to the previous review. Alright, let's start this video proper and talk about the heist. We pick up a few months after the main game. Since the takedown of Fisk, Octavius, and Lee, the Maggiore crime families are planning a comeback to fill the void left by those 3. On one particular night, they're planning to take back a painting that is now hanging in a museum, with Peter swinging by to investigate. Upon stopping the goons from taking anything they can get their hands on, an old flame enters the scene in the form of Black Cat, who you think is here for the painting, but in actuality is here for a thumb drive which is inside the painting. After a wild goose chase, I hate Jacob Goose! We come to find out why she's doing this, with Felicia trying to save her son that she now just has. In time we catch up from chasing her down, and she accepts Spidey's offer to help track her child down so they can save him. Eventually we make it to a shipping yard where her boy possibly is. We find out not only Hammerhead has Sable Tech, but all this was an elaborate ploy by Miss Hardy to steal the Maggio's fortune with all 5 drives. Steelhead was on this and left a surprise at her penthouse with the old Webhead rushing over to save her. As he arrives, the building explodes, leaving our death ambiguous and ending the first chapter of the story. The story itself is about what I expected. I knew most of it was going to be a game of cat and mouse. The first time, and it's not bad, it's just kind of there. I do really like this version of Black Cat, and I dig the chemistry between her and Peter. The stuff with her son didn't amount to much for me, but I will admit it was an interesting direction for them to go with her. Most of the interesting bits for me were the setup for things to come, which left me excited my first time. Only to lead to disappointment. Don't worry, it's coming up. For the most part, I think the narrative is enjoyable and worth playing just for the interactions alone. There's some real history here, and it's fun watching them play off each other. Otherwise, there's not much to go over, so let's move on. Oh god, no. Oh god, no. She's still here! Get on my game, you bitch! The other stuff. So first things I want to note right off the bat is that if you have some collectibles like backpacks and landmarks, you can still get them in the DLCs for whatever reason. Also, there are a set number of crimes per district, just like in the main game, which Why? It's not as many to be fair, but it's still one of the weaker parts of the 2018 game, so I don't know why they decided to carry this over for the DLC.
Why?
Anyway, these sections are going to be short because there isn't a whole lot to talk about besides the main story. But damn it, we're going to give it the old college try. First we have the stolen paintings, which aren't that amazing to collect, but you do get some insight and backstory for the original Black Cat, and it's interesting. You get to meet a new character in Detective Matthew, who seems like a chill dude. Also, the twist at the end is worth getting all the paintings. Next we have... Screwball.
What?
She shows up in the story to announce her new show, and think of these as Taskmaster challenges, but way more annoying. Not for the challenges themselves, but the fact she'll be in your ear the entire fucking time. As far as challenges, you have the obligatory combat one. There's an EMP one where you have to destroy them with your webs, very similar to the Electro boss fight. The best one by far is the gadget challenge, where you are limited to only a couple of gadgets, and these are fun. It's actually these that taught me about using certain gadget combinations, and that's weird to say because it's from Screwball. There are new crimes added to the DLC, but the only one I played involved the spider drone disarming bombs underneath people's cars. There are some suits to unlock also, and this selection... well, I'll get into it. They don't have any new suit powers to mess around with, but I'm okay with this. I love the Scarlet Spider 2 costume, and I think I'm one of the only people on this planet that actually likes the Resilient suit. Spider UK, I don't like this at all. Not a fan of the lenses, and the colors just throw me off, especially the blue. I almost forgot to mention the new enemy type, which is the minigunner. He can be a pain at times, particularly in crowds, but I like them, and I'm surprised we didn't get something like this in the main game. In short, there's stuff to do on the side, and none of it I would classify as bad, really. It adds some more meat to the package, and it'll keep you busy for some time. So, what do I think of this first installment overall? Marvel Spider-Man The Heist was everything I expected it to be, and what we got here is good. The story was enjoyable, and the things to do in New York serve its purpose well. I have some minor grievances with things like the crimes and... her, but it's nothing that really left me disappointed. So in general, not a bad start at all. Okay, let's move on to Turf Wars and see if I feel any better about this after 5 years. With all the shit that happens in the heist, an all-out gang war has started with Hammerhead taking on the other Magia Dons. Soon enough, he's cornered in this old Harlem building with Spidey, Yuri, and a squad of cops raiding the place. Let's just say it goes for the worst with the entire task force dead and Yuri in a state of shock. Spider-Man heads over to the bar with No Name to get more info and finds out the Dons are all holed up in this one location. He manages to stop the raid outside, but they manage to slip in and take them anyway. Next, the cops try to move the Sable Tech he's been taking around the city, but this was all a distraction so they could hit the police station for this Project Olympus stuff. Yuri heads off in a fury, and the tension between the two partners is at an all-time high. Spidey discovers that Hammerhead is at this construction site where he's planning to murder the Dons on live television, but the wall-crawler saves him, of course, and puts the steel-plated menace in his tracks. Soon enough, Captain Watanabe arrives on the scene, and she straight-up kills the bastard. This leaves the cops, Peter, and Yuri at a stalemate, leaving their working relationship up in the air, and finishing off the story to the second DLC. Overall, this narrative feels... non-existent? After the beginning and up until the end, things just kinda happen, with most of it being ambushes from Hammerhead's guys. Also on that note, Hammerhead is a non-entity in his own story. I like the idea of him trying to make the mob intimidating again, but if he actually did something throughout, I'd care more about it. Also, this version of the character really has nothing on John DiMaggio, both in presence and voice. The best thing by far is seeing more of Yuri Watanabe and her descent into evil. It's interesting hearing her struggle over the course of the narrative, getting to the point of her just going flat out rogue. You can also see the relationship between her and Spidey really being tested with this war happening, and all of it is just great. Anyway, this story DLC isn't bad, but it isn't great either, and I would have liked to see more come out of this. Off to talk about sadness. I mean, the other stuff. So for side missions, we have Hammerhead fronts and more Screwball. Ugh. The fronts are basically the demon hideouts from the main game, which I don't mind. Do yourself a favor and don't binge them one after another, because it will get tedious fast. There are some nice set pieces, however, with my favorite being this restaurant area. As for Screwball, we have combat gadgets, and the new challenge this time, stealth. I hate these with a passion. It takes the approach of do whatever you want, and neuters it by making you have to take out every enemy a specific way. Also, don't get me started on trying to go after 3-star ranks and photobombs. I don't remember any of the new crimes added, so I'm just going to mention the new enemy type being these jetpack douchebags. Yeah, I'm putting this out there. Fuck these guys. Not only does their energy shield pack a punch, but the trail from their jetpack disables gadgets, which sucks. If there's any reason to complete the side activities, it's for the suits, which this is the best of the bunch as far as the DLC packs. I absolutely adore the Spider Armor Mark 1. In a game filled to the brim with armored suits, this stands out among the rest, and it's a great translation from the comics. Also really like what they do with the comic Iron Spider. It's a nice mix of what we know and blends with the nanotech Iron Man suit from Infinity War. The best part has to be the spider-like suit power, which turns them into gold.
I love gold!
Last is the Spider Clan suit, which is my least favorite, but I do really like the cel-shaded look of it. Overall, I didn't hate the side quests, but I wasn't invested much either. And I don't have anything else to add to that. So, what are my final thoughts? Marvel Spider-Man Turf Wars isn't inherently bad, but there's a lot here that is either disappointing or just a complete letdown. First of which is the narrative, which I said felt empty, but they don't give me a reason to give a shit about anything besides Yuri and Yuri. Also, the side stuff just doesn't really do it for me compared to the heist, which is just more interesting. If I were you, I would just play the story so you can get the best suits and just leave it at that. I didn't hate this DLC, but I wasn't satisfied whatsoever. Okay, let's talk about silver lining and put this video to rest. Man, I need to take a nap after this shit. With all the insane events from the ending of the last DLC with Yuri killing Hammerhead and him also being resurrected.
Oh my god, zombie! Ah!
The gang war has only escalated since then, getting to the point where Silver Sable has to get involved to get her stuff back. There's a lot of tension between her and Spider-Man, but after some crime, Screwball, and a massive car chase, it's realized that the two of them have to work together in order to bring Hammerhead down. After a little more digging, a meetup is orchestrated, which is obviously a trap over at the Calexo building, with Sable rushing over to take down the boss. Unsurprisingly, it turns out to be an ambush, and this is where we finally see the revive. I can't tell you the amount of confusion I had the first time I played this DLC upon seeing this monstrosity on screen. I mean, it makes sense in context, but what is this thing? You took one of the most badass mobsters in the Spider-Man mythos, made him a joke in his own story, and then ruined him to the point of no return. This is such an insult to my eyes, and I genuinely hope for the sequels we never see this abomination again. Alright, back to the story. After a duel in the sky, Sable is captured by Hammerhead and Spidey is rescued by Black Cat, who is not dead and who is also here to give us information on how to stop this metal-plated douchebag.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia.
Soon enough, we save Sable from the clutches of goons, and with the info in hand, they decide to take him out with a guided laser right to the plate inside his head. With everything set in place, Big Riddle crashes the boat party with the two of them kicking the ever-loving shit out of him, finally putting him down by crashing a plane into him. Our heroes say their goodbyes with Sable heading back to Symkaria and giving Pete a ride, finally closing this chapter and ending the saga of the city that never sleeps. As far as the plot is concerned, this is by far the best of the pack. Everything is wrapped up for the most part in a nice little bow, and it feels like a fitting conclusion to this arc. The best part is with its characters, with the highlight here being Silver Sable, which I wasn't expecting the first time through. You remember what I thought of her from the main game, and they did a complete 180 on her, and I'm all for it. From her desire to help her home country and to get her tech back from Hammerhead. What's also great is her and Spidey's chemistry. They have some resistance at first, which is expected, but after the trust sets in, it becomes something amazing, and it leads to some of the best moments in the game.
There are medical records in here.
Yeah, mostly about that metal plate in his head.
Carbon steel.
Super strong, pretty sensitive to
Heat.
In general, this was much better than Turf Wars and even the heist, and it leaves me satisfied while excited for what's to come in the future. Let's talk about the other stuff for the last time. First, we'll go over the Olympus hideouts, since they're just like every other stronghold in the game. I do like that they all take place in abandoned subways and areas like it. But yeah, it's just the same 5 rounds of beating people up, so we'll leave it at that. As for Screwball, we have the Combat and Gadget Challenge, but the new addition this time is disarming bombs, except unlike Taskmaster, you have to break boxes! Oh no! At least this time we can go to a rooftop party after completing them and we can take her down for good. Good lord, what a relief. If I have to hear Photobomb one more time, I'm gonna kick the puppy into the wood chipper and drown a cat. Last of the side stuff is these crime scene recordings, which can be a bitch to find at times, but just like the paintings, the ending is well worth it. The crime where you help the dude in his truck is fine, but the weakest part of the pack is the suits. Even though I do like 2 of the suits here, there is a counter-argument on why they could be switched out for something else entirely. First we have the Aaron Eichmann suit, which I do like the design for, and I think is the best looking of the bunch. But in a game that is filled with armored suits, I would have liked something more unique. Spider-Verse is fantastic and great promotion, but I think it would have been more fitting as a free update skin rather than something you pay for. Lastly is Cyborg Spider-Man, and not only is this another variant of the classic suit, but this is a 90s disaster that should have stayed in that decade. I guess it didn't matter anyway, since the Raimi suit came out right before this, so everyone just used that instead. Which those people who bitched at Insomniac still don't deserve, by the way. Sorry, let's finish this off and tell you what my thoughts are on this pack. Marvel's Spider-Man Silver Lining is the best of the trio, and everything about it brings me so much joy. From the story to the side missions. Also, even though I gave the suits some crap, I do really enjoy the Spider-Verse and Aaron Eichmann suits. Also gotta mention some great gameplay sections like the Peter Parker swinging and some heartwarming character moments like the Spidey Sable stuff. If you had to play one of these packs, I'd recommend this above all else. Not only for the points I mentioned, but it expands on the gameplay in all the right ways and it presents a fun and fair challenge, compared to the cakewalk that is the heist and the misery of Turf Wars. So yeah, go play it. That's it. So now I think we should go over this expansion and see how it fares up to the main game. So when it comes to the collection itself, I would say this is worth the investment if you want a little more out of the 2018 game. I think there's no other way to sum this up, and yes, while I do have my issues with each of them individually, it's more of what I loved from the main game. The gameplay is still great as ever, with opportunities to improve your skill with the gadget challenges and new enemy types. The story is serviceable, with it being stellar at its best, and at its worst, it's mildly entertaining. Most of the time. Not to mention it gives me more opportunity to swing around the city more, look for new collectibles, and punch a purse snatcher every once in a while. This is by no means perfect, with all of them suffering from similar problems across all 3 packs, and with Turf Wars getting the worst of it. If you love the main game, I recommend playing this at least once at some point, and mainly sticking with a story playthrough, but hey, if you want to be an achievement whore and get everything, you do you. For the $25 asking price, I don't think that's too much out of reach, and I guess you could buy them individually for $10, but I just get the whole thing. A sale's not a bad idea either. It's included in Spider-Man Remastered as well, so I guess it only matters if you own a PS4, but at that point you can just buy the Game of the Year edition and save yourself $1 or $2. Play this and see this city that won't take a goddamn nap.
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up!
This was a interesting approach to this video, and certainly a bit different than anything I've done before. I'm excited for the game that we're looking at next, because a certain character is destined for greatness. I don't know when I'm going to get to that game, but I was thinking for next time that we hook up my GameCube.
Marvel!
Swifty.
When are you getting to The Last of Us?
It's coming up next.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'll start working on it when you quit asking about it.
Well, I'll be watching over to your shoulder to make sure you get it done.
What am I, in kindergarten now?
Like I said, I'm invested in the series, and I just want to make sure you don't mess anything up like you usually do. Okay?
You know what? Whatever.
Well then. I guess I'll be going.
Good idea.
Anyway. See you next video.
Well, I tried avoiding it, but I guess the real next video is that we're looking at The Last of Us. The first game, I should mention, not part 2. Or the TV show. But until then, I hope you all have a great night. Thank you all so much for watching, and take care of yourself.